sending 31 Abrams tanks now, along with the tanks coming from Germany and other European countries to Ukraine. Is this a turning point tactically for Ukraine?
Well, first of all, thanks very much for having me. And what I would say is that we are at a pivotal moment in the conflict in Ukraine as we see those front lines largely static, with the exception of the combat operations we see near Bakhmut and Kreminna. But it's a very important time right now for the Ukrainians to be able to prepare to further defend their territory, but also be able to take back sovereign territory. We know that the Russians are attempting to recruit, to refit, to prepare for an offensive. And so it's important that the Ukrainians get the security assistance they need to be able to defend their country. The kinds of capabilities that you see our European allies providing, for example, Leopard tanks, Challenger tanks, the armored capabilities that we recently announced, like the Strykers and the Bradley fighting vehicles, these are all systems that can be used in the near term, in this near-term battle. The M1 tank will give Ukraine the capability in the medium to long term to defend their country and preserve their security. So it's a fantastic capability. It's the best tank in the world. And we will start now looking at how we can train the Ukrainians to help them build the complex logistics and sustainment that's required with that tank. And we're not going to waste a moment. But our focus, as you highlight, has been on giving them the security assistance they need to defend their country against this Russian aggressor.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse just got back from Ukraine on Monday. He was on this program. He was with President Zelensky over the weekend. This was under discussion. Senator Whitehouse was very supportive of tanks being shipped to Ukraine, but he was expecting them to be, in the end, the German tanks, because he made the point that these American tanks are so advanced, and he said that they require jet fuel to operate, which is something I didn't know, that it's a very difficult machine to keep running in less than ideal support systems. What can you tell us about that?
No, that's true. The M1 is a very complex system. It has a turbine engine. It operates on jet fuel, as you highlight. And so it is not an easy system to maintain, which is why, as we go through the procurement process, we're going to start working with Ukrainians now to help train them on the tanks, not only to operate it, but to maintain, sustain it, and build that logistics network that they're going to need. But I think it's also important not to just focus on a single platform. It's important to look at all of the capabilities that are being provided to Ukraine, because at the end of the day, what this is about is maneuver warfare, giving them the capabilities that they need in order to move and fight on the battlefield and make progress. So you have to look at this in the totality of things like tanks, the infantry fighting vehicles, the armored personnel carriers, the air defense systems that we're providing, all coming together, plus the training, oh, by the way, that we're providing, all coming together to give them a unique capability to change the equation on the battlefield.
You used the phrase long term in referring to what this commitment is. Some of these German tanks will be arriving relatively soon, possibly by March. Some of these American tanks are a year away from arriving in Ukraine at this point, still under manufacture at this point for some of them. And so that does say to the Russian military, this tank supply is going to be going on for into the long term. What does that do to the Russian military calculations when they're looking at what they can see just from the public information of today will be the constant flow of tanks into Ukraine over the next year?
Well, I think we've been very clear from the beginning of this conflict that our commitment to supporting Ukraine is enduring. It's something we're going to do for the long haul, and we're prepared to do that. We certainly would hope that Russia would see that this is a no-win situation, that they would withdraw from Ukraine, restore sovereignty. But if they don't, which it appears they have no intention of doing, we'll continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes.
We have been watching this 11 months of this give and take. You will remember 10 months ago on this network and on all networks, there was the cry was no fly zone, no fly zone, no fly zone. I made the point that that is not what people necessarily think it is. You're basically asking for American pilots to go into war with Russian pilots. That cry went away. Joe Biden ignored it. He dealt with it, but he ignored it, and he stayed his course for what he decided he was going to supply. How have you, as you track the demands now and the requests from Ukraine and then demands from some people in this country saying you should be doing this instead of that, how does the Defense Department guide the president in what the priorities should be?
Well, one of the mechanisms that Secretary Austin instituted, which has been critical to the success of this campaign, is the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. In fact, we just completed the 8th meeting of the contact group at Ramstein Air Base last week. And what that's done is it's enabled us to have nearly 50 countries come together to identify what Ukraine's security assistance requirements are, and to then put together the security assistance packages that you have seen being announced by the U.S. and others in a comprehensive, integrated way that contributes to Ukraine's success on the battlefield. So it's through mechanisms like that. It's through frequent phone calls and visits with our Ukrainian international allies and partners to ensure that we're doing this in a cohesive, concerted way that I think the results speak for themselves in terms of the progress that you've seen Ukraine make since the beginning of this war. But there's a lot more work to do. The battlefield is dynamic. There are no illusions about the challenges ahead, and so that's why we're going to keep after it.